They've been going to church for years. However, what they are famous for is complaining about other people. And every conversation ultimately devolves into bitter complaints about everybody else. They are complaining about their relatives, they're complaining about their friends, they're complaining about the people at work, the people in their neighborhood. It's non-stop complaining. They get angry at the drop of a hat. The slightest thing that happens that disappoints them, out comes a flurry of profanities, and they're mad about everything. From what comes out of, Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And this is what you get. And yet, they're all about Jesus. Okay. They're very quick to tell people about the Lord. And, and I don't want to sin, because the Bible says, be angry, but don't sin. Okay. It's easy to sin when you're angry, though. Okay. So you have to be very careful about that. So it says, what? Because this seems like a really serious problem. The Bible is pretty clear, and we have multiple instructions. When you're angry, shut up. Don't say anything. This is where you exercise self-control. Okay, what happens is this. Anger and fear are two sides of the same coin. Anger is fear all grown up. Because what happens, you're looking at a situation, you don't like it, and you're afraid that if you don't do something, things are not going to change. So I got to do something. So I have to complain to somebody. I have to criticize somebody. I have to make somebody feel small, or else things won't change. That's what anger is. I have to take matters into my own hand, or things won't change. And I'm going to have problems. So your amygdala is stimulated. And when the amygdala is stimulated, that's your fear center. A lot of times it comes out of the mouth. We have to do something. We have to take action. And that's where we get ourselves into trouble. The smallest dogs bark the most. Remember years ago when I was working in Florida, before I was a door-to-door salesman one summer for Southwestern Company to make money for college. Back then, you could work during the summer and make enough money to pay for your college. Those days are gone. Okay, that would never happen. You'd never be able to make enough unless you could be like an executive for a summer, and most people can't do that when they're in college, right? But back then you could do that. So I was going door to door, and they train you before you go out into the field how to fight dogs. Because you're in these neighborhoods and there are stray dogs, and you need to be able to protect yourself if you're walking around in neighborhoods. And so we have my sales case here, and I was trained anytime you come up against a dog, you keep that case between you and that dog's mouth. And amazingly, it worked. I did it like 100 times. I was attacked by entire packs of dogs, and as long as I had that case, they couldn't touch me. You just keep it between you and the dog. It worked every time. Pit bulls, didn't matter. Every single dog I fought off, German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Great Danes, didn't matter. As long as I had this case, dogs couldn't touch me. I lost my fear of dogs. Then one day I'm visiting this family. I go into their house and I'm talking to them. Next thing I know, ow! I look down, the poodle bit me. I'm going, are you kidding me? I went the whole summer fighting all these dogs off, and I get bit by a poodle, right? The smallest dogs, they complain the most. And when you bark, this is interesting, and because my fellowship training is in functional neuroimaging, so you look at when you're doing a particular behavior, what part of the brain lights up. Well, it turns out when dogs bark, there are particular areas in the frontal cortex and the motor area that light up when a dog barks. In humans, when you swear, those exact same areas light up. Swearing is akin to a dog barking. It's the same reflex. It's so natural. Complaining and arguing and cursing are so natural that people that have been Christians for years, especially if you grow up in a family where your parents did that, it's really hard to see that as a wrong thing. And it's natural. It's as natural as sleeping or going to the bathroom. It's natural. And so it's really hard for people to feel guilty about something that's natural. But God is very clear about how we're to handle ourselves when we're angry. Let's take a look at a few verses, but that's not just in the Bible, by the way. I'm going to get into that.
Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God.
Okay, this is a really super important verse, and it says something very profound. Be quick to hear. In other words, listen. So often in a conversation, there are people that are really gifted with verbal fluency. They love to talk. They won't say they love to talk. They demonstrate it every time you talk to them because you can't get a word in. They just want somebody to vent at. That's what they want from you. I need you to listen to me vent. And on they go. You try to say something and they're like waiting for you to stop so they can finish what they're saying. All right? They don't wait. They're not quick to hear. They want to talk. It says, be quick to hear, listen to people. When you're in a conversation with somebody, I heard some really good advice. I forgot from who, but I thought that's really wise advice. And what they were saying was, when you're in a conversation with somebody, count to 10 or 20 when they finish their sentence before you say something. Make sure they're finished, and then say what you're going to say. It makes it look like you're paying attention. Okay? All right? And that's part of listening. All right? I think that's good advice. Slow to speak, slow to anger. Those go together because now there are some people, I'm going to have a caveat here. There are some people that I've treated that have brain damage. They have been in car accidents. They've tried to commit suicide and blown off parts of their brain. They have fallen from buildings and they smashed their heads and their frontal lobes are macerated. Unfortunately, when you have frontal lobe damage, it's really hard to control that because this is the part of your brain that before when you say something, this is the part of your brain that says, if I do this, then what's going to happen? And then it says, better not say that. Don't do that because this will be the result. It slows you down. And I don't want to do this because, God's not going to be happy if I respond like this, so I'm not going to do it. This is where your self-control is. For people with poorly functioning prefrontal cortices, it's going to be harder for them. And I think God takes that in consideration. That's why we can't judge people. If we know somebody who's quick to let loose, sometimes it's because of brain damage. And we have to give those guys a pass. God's going to give them a pass. Okay, so this isn't an absolute rule. Some people are really going to have a harder time with this. Okay, but be slow to speak, slow to anger. When we're upset, slow down, think, be quiet. Don't speak when you're angry. Bad idea. It says the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. That seems counterintuitive. It's like, I'm a Christian and I have the right values. And when I see some sin going on, I need to get involved and fix it. I need to let people know, hey, that's a sin, man. No. Your anger says, no. The anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. That means when you're angry, it's very unlikely you're going to say something that God can actually use. All right? If you want God to use something you're going to say to help somebody, cool off. Think about it. Pray about it maybe. And then give your 2 cents. When you're angry, don't make your contribution because it's probably not going to help.
Superior man seeks to perfect the qualities of his heart, rather than to find fault with others.
Okay, that's Confucius. These principles are not just in the Bible. There is wisdom literature out there that some of it predates the Bible, some of it's after the Bible, but these ideas are not uncommon. I mean, it's not just in the Bible. It's Confucius. Superior man seeks to perfect the qualities of his heart rather than find fault with others.
Strong men are hard on themselves, weak men are hard on others.
Now, he said that, but it's based on principles that have been around for thousands of years. It's easy to be hard on others. That is natural, and I'm going to explain why that is in a minute. A strong person thinks about, okay, how am I doing? What did I do today that was constructive, good, and honorable? What did I do today that wasn't? What did I do today? Jesus said, he who does not gather with me scatters. What did I do today that scattered? Okay, or if anything. So we need to be hard on ourselves like that.
You only have power over your own mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
Okay, Confucius said something very much like this as well. That was Tao. That was the Tao guy. But basically he said, if you can't control it, don't worry about things you can't control. That is really biblical. It's not just Eastern philosophy. That is just wisdom.
Easily seen are others' faults. Hard to see are one's own.
Okay, that's Buddha there. And he talks like Yoda, doesn't he? Easy to see are, but it's true. It's true. It's easy to see other people's faults, and it's hard to see our own.
Resentment and blame are traits of the weak. Fearful, weak-minded people who lack willpower, integrity, and courage. True strength involves rigorous self-scrutiny, rather than scapegoating others.
Hey, anybody know who Zarathustra was?
The Iranian.
Exactly. Yes. He was the Zoroastrian. He's the prophet of the Zoroastrian faith. And as we talked about last time, the Zoroastrians and Judaism and Christianity all converge. Okay, but before the birth of Christ, we have the Jewish prophets who were predicting the coming of the Messiah. Okay, and then the prophets of Zoroaster had the exact same prophecy. That's why the wise men were there. The wise men were not Jews. The wise men were from Iran. They were from the Persian Empire. And they came because their prophecy said that a Messiah would come and that he would offer the ultimate sacrifice and he would put an end to the rule of demons forever. And they were following the star. They were prophets of Zoroaster. It had nothing to do with Judaism. And so what we see in Christianity is a convergence of world faiths. That's why, say that Christianity is not just the Western religions. Christianity was the culmination of faith for humanity, okay? But Zoroaster is a really smart guy. I pointed out, resentment and blame are traits of weak, fearful-minded people who lack willpower, integrity, and courage. It's easy, it's very easy if we can't move society, if we can't move others with our power, with our influence, then the easy thing to do is to just sit around resenting them and talking about it behind their back. Okay, that's easy. It's a yap, like a little dog. Yap, 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 yap. We can't hurt them, but we can yap at them behind their back.
Judge not, that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite! First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye.
Now it's interesting that Jesus would use a parable like this. If you think about, he's a carpenter. He knows about getting specks in your eye. Okay, if you're working around wood, that's going to happen. And so he said, "Yeah, I know all about that speck thing." Okay, specks and planks. Yeah, that's we knew a lot about that stuff. But yeah, and it's kind of a scary verse. It's one of the scary verses where it says, don't judge others, or you're going to be judged. For the judgment you judge, you will be judged. And the measure you use, it'll be measured back to you. In other words, if you are hard on people, if you don't go easy on people, if you don't give them the benefit of the doubt, if you have to get even with people and make them pay by shaming them, by going after their reputation, or somehow, making them pay in some way, God's going to say, okay, fine, you can do that. Okay. However, if you're going to be hard on others, I'm going to be hard on you. So what does that look like? Well, I can tell you exactly what that looks like. That means in your interpersonal relationships, you're going to have a lot more conflict and trouble. Okay, so it's going to come back to you through your relationships. It's going to come back through your finances. Okay, so good luck with that. Okay, it's going to come back with legal issues. There are all kinds of ways God can get even with you. So if you want to make other people, if you want to get even with them, God says, okay, fine. For all of your infractions, rather than giving you a completely clean slate, because I'll forgive your sins. You can come to heaven if you don't sin too much. If you don't, because if you don't forgive people, period, you're in trouble of even losing that. But as Christians, there are a lot of Christians who are suffering a lot on earth because they can't stop gossiping and talking about other people, making other people pay for their sins and getting even. And they don't even realize they're doing it, but they're paying a price anyway. So here, God is saying, Jesus is saying, look, this is how it's going to be. If you want an easy life, be careful what you say about people. Be careful how you treat people. If you're generous with others, I'll be generous to you. So how hard is it to detect sinful behaviors in others that somehow threaten our safety or prosperity? How hard is it to see other people's sins?
Super easy, barely an inconvenience.
It's very easy. It's very easy to see other people's sins. Very easy. And there are some Christians, because they're so good, it can quote you chapter and verse when somebody else is sinning. They're very good at pointing that out. They never see it in themselves, but they're super good. And they feel like, oh, this is my spiritual gift. Pointing out what's wrong with the pastor. Pointing out what's wrong with the pastor's wife. What's wrong with the doctors that are treating me. What's wrong with the other people in church or Bible study, whatever. I mean, that's all they do is point out other people's faults. Now, why is that? Well, we have a sphere. Mentally speaking, we have a sphere, like the sphere of your stuff, okay? And in that sphere is your money, your house, or my money, my house, my reputation, my intimate friends, my car, my status at work, my status in the neighborhood, and so forth. And so all of this stuff is important to me. So I got a bubble here. Now, I have sensors all along this bubble. Anytime somebody does something or says something that threatens me and my stuff, the alarms go off right away. And you go, oh, you did a sin because you are threatening my sphere. Okay, you're getting too close. Step back. I'm going to get you, okay, because this is this person saying, I see the sins out there because your sin is affecting my stuff. All right, now what we're not good at is appreciating. We see the value of the stuff in our sphere. What we don't see is the value here, because we don't have sensors here. We don't have this. Now, the closest thing we have is something called empathy. Okay, empathy. Now, empathy first develops. The first round of empathy gets when our brain develops. And you notice it around 14 years old. 14, 15 is usually when that starts. And now, for the first time, you have the ability to see things from the other person's perspective. And that's empathy. Now, some people don't get a lot because of developmental issues. Some people get enough. But it still doesn't give you the same degree of sensitivity that we have to our stuff, but it gives us some sensitivity, okay? Now, when Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, what he's saying is, treat other people's sphere as if it were yours. Assume that their sphere is just as important as your sphere. That's what agape love is. Assuming that other people's sphere is as valuable as ours, okay? Now, most anger, there are two types of anger: selfish indignation and righteous indignation. Selfish indignation is when we're upset because somebody's threatening our sphere. Somebody's threatening our stuff. Okay, so our alarms are going off. That is most of the anger we feel. However, there is something called righteous indignation. Righteous indignation is when we're upset because an innocent is being harmed because of malice or indifference, incompetence from somebody else. And we don't want to see the innocent harmed. We're looking at something, or for somebody is completely, degrading to God or something like that. Okay, but those are things. We don't have a dog in the race. Now here we got this guy's protecting this baby from these dogs that are attacking. Okay, so that's the example of that's righteous indignation, where you're angry, but you're angry about a situation because it's impacting an innocent person. Okay, now. One thing that got me thinking about this particular one is there is a person that I know whose father is dying. He has CML, acute myelogenous leukemia, and the doctor said he got 6 months to live. Okay. Now, this guy, her father, is not a Christian, right? And so I mentioned, it's like, okay, you need to tell him he's got 6 months to live. And she goes, oh, no, because he'll freak out. And I'm like, okay. You realize that knowing you're going to die, that is your last chance to get right with God. If you're ever going to get right with Him, this is it. You need to know it's coming. Now, I can't guarantee, just because you know it's coming doesn't mean you're going to get serious. Some people don't. But if you care about this guy, you need to take that chance. Okay? And the response was, I'll pray about it. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then the thought hit me, and I'm not sure this is 100%. but they didn't have a real great relationship. But when he dies, she gets $500,000 because he's worth a little bit more than $500,000. And if she says something that he's going to die, he might realize that she's going to inherit his money, and he might disinherit. He might make sure that the money goes to other family members rather than her. So she doesn't want to upset that apple cart. So she's not going to tell him. So the anger that I feel in this particular case, I think is righteous indignation. I don't have a dog in this race, but I'm thinking, okay, for one thing, he might not do that. But you don't want to take any chances, so you're going to risk letting him just go to hell. I got a problem with that, okay? So that's, in my mind, that's an example of righteous indignation, okay? Now, how do you know if it's selfish or not? Well, what do I have to lose? One way or the other, what does it matter to me? It doesn't. I don't have a dog in the race, okay? All right. So the amygdala works. You see something that's threatening in the environment, and the amygdala, which is the emotional center of the brain, lights up really quickly, and it gives you 10 out of 10 anxiety. Now, your logical brain also observes the stimulus, and it says, is this really worth 10 out of 10? Is it really 10 out of 10? And then it says, okay, it's a spider. I've seen other spiders. I've killed spiders. It's only one. Not a big deal. Drag that down, kill it, and let's go to a 1 out of 10. And so you don't feel the 10 out of 10 because your logical brain had plenty of power. Okay? But if you've had brain damage, or if your body's inflamed, or you're sick, then this is not going to work as well. Okay? But that's usually how this works. And if you get really severe anger, or really severe anxiety, it pops out as anger. Okay? So again, the overwhelming majority of our anger is selfish indignation rather than righteous indignation. So we got some scriptures about anger. Psalm 37, be still in the presence of the Lord and wait patiently for him to act. Don't worry about evil people who prosper or fret about their wicked schemes. Stop being angry. Turn from your rage. Don't lose your temper. It only leads to harm. For the wicked will be destroyed, but those who trust in the Lord will possess the land. Now, it's saying here, it's like, look, you see somebody doing something bad, okay, they're sinning, whatever. Don't worry about it. You're not the Holy Spirit. Don't worry about it, okay? If it has nothing to do with you, okay, don't worry about it. Talk about it with God, whatever, but don't be freaking about it, you know? And one of the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, and patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. How can you have peace if you're freaking about every little sin that you see? People watch the news and get upset, and it's like, what are you getting upset? You know? So you can't change that stuff, all right? Don't sin by letting anger control you. Think about it overnight and remain silent. So there is a scriptural basis for when you're angry, don't talk. Don't talk. We're not... Some people, they call it venting. And it's like, look, venting is evil. Venting is not cool. My mom, I'm venting about my mom, I'm venting about my wife, I'm venting about my boss. I just need somebody to vent to. What does that mean, venting? Well, you basically go through all the bad things they did and how you need, that something bad needs to happen to them, whatever. Okay, you're letting anger control you. And it says, think about it, remain silent. So if I don't vent, I can't let that build up. It's not good for me. That's like saying somebody has to go to a prostitute because their hormones are acting up. It's like, no, you don't have to go to a prostitute. No, okay. We can vent, but we can vent to God. He really exists. We can just go talk to him, and we can tell him everything we're thinking. We can say it that way. It says, be angry, but don't sin. We can vent. He can take it. And we can let loose and let him talk to us about this stuff. But we don't have to go to another person and involve them in a sin. Proverbs 14, people with understanding control their anger. A hot temper shows great foolishness. Whoever is slow to anger is better than being powerful. Better to have self-control than to conquer a city. Good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is his glory to overlook an offense. There are a couple places in Proverbs where it says that it is to the glory of a person to overlook an offense. What does that mean? All right, do you overlook something when when somebody is doing behavior that puts another at risk of harm? Or if they're going to harm themselves, then we need to be involved. We have to say something, okay? Risk of harm to self or others means this is a serious enough offense where we need to get involved, okay? We don't want this person harmed. We don't want somebody else to be harmed, okay? So that's for real. But there are a lot of things that happen that are not that big a deal. We need to let it go. God lets things go. If he were to punish us every time we sinned, life would be unbearable. And he's saying, look, be like me, let it go. Let it go, you know.
Not always seek the last word.
Yeah. It's like that. Stop that. A fool gives vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. So here, basically, this is the verse that validates what I just said. Okay, if you need a Bible verse, this says it specifically. Don't vent. If you need to vent, vent to God, but don't vent in front of people. Don't let, you're angry, you're saying stuff that's going to come back on your head. Don't do that. Don't, because you're getting even with people. When we vent against our enemies, it's a form of getting even, and it makes our life harder. Proverbs 22. Now here's a big one here. Don't befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people, or you will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. That one there, look, if you have a family member or a friend that is constantly going off, angry all the time, complaining all the time, you know what? It robs you of peace. It does. If you're trying to live your life and enjoy life and just hang out and really enjoy peace and life, and then you got somebody who does nothing but stir up trouble and complain constantly, always running somebody down. Talk about robbing you of peace. I mean, there is no peace. Because they want you like, oh yeah, you hate them too, right? It's like, oh, stop it. And if you're close to that person, this is something that's very easy to do. This is natural. Venting is totally natural, okay? It's natural. And so when you have somebody in your life that is a confidant, and this is the way they behave, it's very easy to fall into it. And for some people, and the danger here of finding fault in other people is that nobody can correct you now. Because you're so good at finding fault in others, nobody is qualified to correct you. So you never grow. You never change. God uses people to straighten us up. When we go astray, sometimes God brings our friends, he brings other believers in our lives, and they correct us gently or not so gently, but they say, look, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay? And if we are paying attention, we go, oh, this is God trying to help me out here. Okay, I need to pay attention. But if we are constantly angry, going off and finding fault with everybody, then, and I've seen this in real life, everybody that tries to set them right, they immediately say, oh, how dare you tell me that I am too negative? You're negative. I remember 14 years ago when you yelled at that guy who was in front of you in front of the Kmart. So you're not qualified to correct me. All right? And that's the problem here. You never grow. You stay a 4-year-old for your whole life. Matthew 7:2, for in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. God's saying, if you want to have a hard life, then judge people harshly. Talk about them behind their back. You want me to give you a hard life? In fact, in one translation, in the Peterson translation, it says, be easy on people. Don't be hard on people. If you are too hard on people, that's going to boomerang. Okay, and it's like, that's a pretty good way of saying that. It's going to boomerang. There is a verse over there in Proverbs that says, the deeds of a man shall return to him. What you put out comes back. Now, there's a lot of that new age crystal stuff that I'm like, that's like straight out of hell. It's horrible. However, they're right about that. What you put out into the universe, yeah, it comes back at you.
You reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow. That's exactly right. They're right about that. That is a very true thing. Matthew 6:15. But if you do not forgive men their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. Scariest verse in the entire New Testament. That is the most terrifying verse in the whole New Testament. It is. Bar none. There is no scarier verse. And if you take a look at the Greek, it actually says something like, if you don't forgive them from your heart. I am not allowed. That's hard. So when somebody does you wrong, when somebody betrays you and does you wrong, it is natural to ruminate on your ooh-wah. You've been wounded, you've been hurt, and you want to think about it over and over again, and you fantasize about getting even and that stuff, and it says, you can't do that, not allowed, not allowed. I forgave you everything. And the condition is you have to forgive people that betray you. You have to forgive people that disappoint you and hurt you. If you don't, then you don't get what I'm offering. Look, I forgave you an infinite debt, and I'm asking you to forgive a minuscule debt by comparison. But that is the deal. You have to forgive.
Hey, Tony, what's the deal with this guy?
Don't you recognize him? This is Silas Manger. He's famous. The idiot stole millions from the king.
From His Majesty? He stole from the king? Dude, your head's gonna roll, man.
By this afternoon, your bean is gonna be in a basket, dude.
This man, Silas Manger, owes you $14.5 million. He mismanaged a royal caravan trade route, losing goods to bandits, in addition to squandering who knows how much on lavish parties, lavish feasts to impress traders.
You owe $14.5 million. That's a lot of money, Silas.
Please, Your Majesty, Your Honor, I'll beg you, please be patient with me. I was deceived by people that I thought were my friends. They turned out to be false allies. I admit I overspent to save face. I thought I was going to be making more money. I was going to give some back to the crown.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, sir. I promise that if you'll let me stay out of prison, I will work day and night, 24 hours a day, and I will get you your money back. I promise.
That's a lot of money.
I know. Just give me time. Your Majesty, just give me time. I can do this. Let me work it off. I will pay you back. I promise.
Accountant, approximately how long will it take Silas here to pay off his rather amazing debt working in the prison workyard?
Approximately 93 years and 7 months, presuming an 18-hour workday and that he remains in relatively good health during the 93 years.
Your Majesty, I can make that money a whole lot quicker outside of the prison yard. Trust me, I can. I totally can. I'm really healthy. I'm gonna live a long time. I eat plenty of vegetables. I cut down on the beer. I promise I can make you that money way more quickly outside of prison than I can inside of the prison. Hey, please, think about my children. If I go to prison, what's gonna happen to them? They'll starve. They don't have anybody but me. Please have mercy. Please give me time to do this. I beg you, please.
Silas, you don't deserve this, but I am moved by your apology. You do understand what you did was wrong, do you not?
Yes, sir.
See. And you won't do it again?
I promise.
Okay. I am moved by your cries for pity, and I am willing to forgive your entire $14.5 million debt.
But Your Majesty, the money he owes to the crown.
What? Free? I can go?
I am willing.
And I don't owe any money. None. Blank slate? The legends are true. Your Honor, my king, the legends are true. You are truly the most kind, benevolent king the world has ever seen. I promise you, I will spend the rest of my life proclaiming just how beneficent and wonderful you are. I will work for you. I will work hard to build your fame. I will make everybody realize just what a wonderful king we actually have. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I so appreciate it.
Just 2 days later.
Hey, Artemis, come here. Been looking everywhere for you. You're hard to find. I heard you lost my tools that I loaned you. You know? That'll be $247. That's what's going to cost me to replace them. And I need the money now, today.
Hey, Silas, yay, how you doing? Didn't expect to see you for a while. What's this about now?
Yeah, don't play stupid. Don't play stupid. You know what I'm talking about. A few months ago, the storm, messed your house up, damaged your roof. I loaned you not only the tools, but the building material to fix it, right? And I kind of wanted my tools back, but I heard that you lost them.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah, sure. I found the tools to fix my roof because that storm came through and it got like the whole neighborhood. And so, thank you. I needed those materials, and the tools helped a lot. But, my cousin, he just lives a few houses down from me, and his house got hit too. And I loaned him the tools. And then, he has a gambling problem, and, he gambled them away. And so kind of puts me at disadvantage, and I didn't think I'd see you again because last I heard you were in jail. So
I don't want to hear about your cousin. It's not my problem. That's not my problem at all. My deal is that I want my tools, and since you don't have those, I'm going to need $247 today.
Okay, Silas, all right. I'm going to pay you back. I promise. I've got you covered next week. For sure, you're going to have your money. Just have a little patience, okay?
Artemis, you should have thought about that before you loaned out my tools, okay? Guards, take him away, and he is to stay in debtor's prison until my entire $247 debt is paid up. Thank you. I'll see you when you get out.
Why, are you serious? For $247, you're going to have me arrested for some rusty tools? Silas, come on, don't do this. It'll take me over a year to pay that off in debtor's prison.
1 day later.
Your Majesty, you remember Silas Manger, whom you forgave over $14 million?
I do. What about him?
He just imprisoned a fellow gentleman by the name of Artemis Beener over an incredibly tiny debt. Now, it's very unjust, and the people are talking about it, as you might imagine, considering that he was forgiven an incredible debt from the crown.
You've got exactly how much did this Artemis owe Silas for him to have him thrown in jail?
Slightly less than $250. Not $250,000, $250.
Bring him to me now.
40 minutes later.
Silas, you are a wicked man. I mean that. I forgave you $14.5 million because you begged me. You said you learned your lesson. Shouldn't you have forgiven your friend for a lousy $250? Your heart is harder than stone. Are you stupid?
But King, you don't understand. Out of the goodness of my heart, I loaned him my best tools, and he loaned them to his cousin, who gambled them away. Gambling is a sin, right? And I just...
Guards, take him to the dungeon, and he is to stay there until every last penny of his $14.5 million debt is paid to me. Get him out of here.
What? Wait. I didn't. There was a condition. There was a condition when you forgave me the debt. There was a condition that I didn't know about. That would have been helpful if you'd said, hey, you're forgiven on the condition that you forgive everybody else's debt for the rest of your life. And be aware that I'm going to be like watching you from now on. That would have been really helpful to know, you know what I'm saying? So is it really my fault if the condition wasn't disclosed?
Silas, some things are common sense, okay? You have experienced what it's like to go from hopeless debt to utter forgiveness, being debt-free, because somebody had mercy on you. You have experienced that. You are therefore obligated to spread it around, to show that same level of mercy to the people in your own life. You should have done it as a show of gratitude to me. You know my value system. I forgave you a nearly infinite debt. What I forgave you is so much more than any other person could possibly owe you. And it should have been obvious that if you really appreciated the grace that I extended to you, that you would automatically pay it forward and extend that grace to other people. That's common sense. It should have gone without saying. Clearly, you didn't appreciate my beneficence. You didn't appreciate the gift that I freely gave to you, $14.5 million. So, I take it back, as is my right.
I'm really not liking this, you know? What about my family?
So shut your mouth, or the next words that you hear out of my mouth will be off with his head. Thank you. Get him out of here.